Okay. Good evening, guys. Can you all let me know if you all can hear me and see a screen? Yes. Can see a screen? Right. Okay. So today we need to start from the 2018 paper, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll do from 1819 until 2022. There will be a lot of questions that we will discuss today because from 2019 onwards, that is where the new syllabus started. So you will have two essay questions, one from unit number 2 and another one from unit number 3. So 2018 and before, there was only one essay question in the part 2 paper, combined unit number 2 and 3. So now from 2019 onwards, you will see there are two essay questions. Question number 2 is from unit number 2 and question number 3 is from unit number 3. So given that there are two essay questions, we have around one question from 18, two questions from 19, two from 20, two from 21, two from 22. So we have 9 questions in total to discuss and finish off. So maybe if the class goes a little past 6, I will still continue and I will finish off unit number 2 and 3 today and only finish the class. So we can focus on unit number 4 freshly next week. I'm hoping that's okay with all of y'all as well. So in case it exceeds 6 p.m. a little, we'll still stay and finish it off. Okay. So the speed depends on how fast y'all answer on the chat box and the amount of answers that you give. There are a few interesting areas on price stabilization, deficiency payment, and all of that, which we will be learning today. Okay. So with that said, let's get into the chapters and the question. Right. Here's how many of y'all did the question 2018 to 2022 done? Yes, no. All the questions 18 to 22. At least some of it. Yeah. Okay. Some of y'all have done, some of y'all might have not. Okay. So I'm only going to discuss today, guys. I'm hoping that y'all would have done and come. Okay, but at least y'all hoping that y'all have some sort of an idea, because otherwise it will be too fast. Okay. So with that, we'll start. We'll start with the 2018 A-level paper question number 2. Now, there are some questions that are very easy, guys. Those questions I will sometimes skip if we have discussed it previously. Okay. Right. 2018 question number 2, subsection 1. Distinguish between individual demand curve and market demand curve. So what is the difference between the individual demand? What is the difference between individual demand and market demand? Individual demand is one person's demand, one individual's demand for one good. For example, let's say my demand for mobile phones. Then what is market demand? Market demand is everyone's demand for one product. So it's the collection of all the individuals. Now, if you take the entire amount of people in Sri Lanka, everyone's demand for mobile phones is what you call market demand. So you can, now since they are using the word curve here, right? You can say the individual demand curve represents one individual, or you can say one person's demand for one product. For example, you can say, let's say your demand for mobile phone. On the other hand, market demand is the collection of all the individual demands. So market demand, in other words, is everyone's demand for one good. That is what you need to explain. You don't have to explain too much, guys, because it's only a 2-mark question. Is that okay? Individual demand and market demand. Individual demand, one person's demand for one good. Market demand, everyone's demand for that one good. So market demand is the collection of all the individual demand. So then we'll go to the second question. Second question says, what does it say? A given good is an inferior good, but an inferior good is not necessarily a given good. Now, this story will make it more clear if you all watch that income effect substitution effect video which I uploaded on YouTube. Did you all check it out? Income effect substitution effect for a normal, inferior and given good. Yes. In that video, I clearly explain. So it's there in the Unit 2 past paper playlist. If you have not watched it, right, pause and little by little watch it from the beginning itself. Otherwise, it gets too complex. I go very slow from the beginning itself. So if you have not watched, watch it from the beginning itself. Okay. So let me recap this story. A given good is an inferior good, but an inferior good is not necessarily a given good. So in simple terms, guys, we are saying all the given goods are inferior, but all inferior are not given. Now, how does it work? Yes, can you tell me what is the main condition for a good to be called an inferior good? What's the main condition? For a good to be an inferior good, for a good to be an inferior good, what should it have? What should it have, guys? For a good to become an inferior good, it needs to have a negative relationship with income and quantity demanded. In other words, you can say the income effect has to be negative. What has to be negative? Not the substitution effect. The income effect has to be negative, right? Or in other words, the income effect needs to be negative. That is the condition for what? For a good to become a inferior good. So if any good is to become an inferior good, what should be there, guys? There needs to be a negative relationship between income and demand. So if your income increases, you will buy less of it. If your income decreases, you will buy more of it. That is what you call an inferior good. So then you can say, okay, then what can you say? Then you can say a given good. So a given good also has a negative relationship with income and demand and also has a negative income effect. So what is the condition for a good to become an inferior good? You should have a negative relationship between income and demand, or in other words, you should have a negative income effect. So a given good also has that condition. A given good is meeting that condition. Therefore, you can say, therefore, a given good can be considered as an inferior good. So this is the first part of your answer. Is that clear? You give the condition and you say that, look here, given goods fulfill that condition. So therefore, given goods are also inferior goods. Is that okay? Yes, given goods doesn't have much close substitute. Is it income and QD or price and QD? Income and QD, not price and QD. Okay. Right. Then give me a second. Okay. So this condition is met. A given good is an inferior good. Now you have explained. You have said this is the condition for a good to become inferior good, right? And you have proved that also. Okay. Income and demand, or you can say even quantity demand. Income and demand ideally. That's the more correct. Okay. Now you need to prove the second part of it. What is the second part of this? But an inferior good is not necessarily a given good. Now, this is the second part of the question. Okay. Is income effect and relation between income and demand the same? Yeah, it shows the same thing, right? Income effect and the relationship between income and demand show the same thing, kind of. Can't we mention that given goods has a positive relationship with price and Q? Yes, I'm coming to given goods now. Okay, right. Now, can you tell me, guys? Now, this is for the first part. No, that's on the left. The second part, For a good to become a given good, what is the main condition? For a good to become, good to be a given good, what should be there, guys? What's the condition? What's the main thing? What's the main thing? It has to have a positive relationship between what? It has to have a good. There has to be what, guys? There has to be a positive relationship between price and quantity demand. Here we look at price and quantity demand. In other words, what can we say? In other words, it should have a positive price effect. A positive price effect. I'm hoping you all would have watched that video, guys. The one that has this and this and this. Okay. Sorry, this is not food. This is for. Okay. For a good to be a given good, there has to be what? There has to be a positive relationship between price and quantity demanded. In other words, there needs to be a this. So then, can you tell me, guys, does all inferior goods have this condition? Does all inferior goods have this condition? No, right? So you can say, right? You can say certain inferior goods, right? Certain inferior goods, okay, which where now, for example, okay, listen to this. Guys, do you all remember which effect is stronger for a given good? Is it the income effect or the substitution effect? See, what's the video you should know? Which effect is stronger for a given good? For a given good, the negative income effect is stronger, right? So see, certain inferior goods where the negative income effect is stronger than the negative substitution effect. Substitution effect, right, can be considered as given goods. So there are some goods, right? Some inferior goods. Inferior goods means has a negative income effect. So if this negative income effect is stronger than the negative substitution effect, then you can say that inferior good is a given good also. But there are some goods, right? However, there are certain goods where, okay, so you can say this. Yes, what happens here when the negative substitution effect is greater? When the negative substitution effect is stronger, this makes the good have a positive price effect. However, there are certain goods where the negative substitution effect is stronger than the negative income effect. These inferior goods, right? These inferior goods cannot be considered as given goods. They would have a, I'm giving a more detailed answer, guys. You all don't have to write every single thing here, right? They would, I'll explain again also, don't worry. They would have a negative price effect. So let me just summarize this answer. Okay, try to understand this properly, guys. First of all, for you to understand this question, you should have watched that video. Okay, if you don't know how the income and substitution effect works, then you are completely blank. That I can't help. But for someone who has watched that video, has some idea, listen carefully. Okay, the question is asking that to prove that all given goods are inferior goods. That is what I have highlighted in blue here, first part, that all given goods are inferior goods. So what is the condition for a good to become an inferior good? for a good to become an inferior good, it has to have a negative relationship between income and demand. In other words, it has to have a negative income effect. What should it have? For a good to become an inferior good, it should have a negative income effect. So then we say a given good also has a negative income effect. That means a given good also has a negative relationship between income and demand. So given good is satisfying that condition. Therefore, a given good also becomes a inferior good. So you can say that all given goods are inferior goods. That is the first part. The second part of this question is saying, but an inferior good is not necessarily a given good. That is also correct. All inferior goods don't have to be given goods. So what is the condition for a good to be a given good? For a good to be a given good, there has to be a positive relationship between price and QD. In other words, there has to be a positive price effect. So there are some inferior goods. Now, what is the inferior good? Negative relationship between income and demand. So there are some inferior goods. In addition to having a negative income effect, that negative income effect is stronger than the negative substitution effect. Therefore, it makes the good have a positive price effect, meaning a positive relationship between price and QD. So therefore, some inferior goods are given goods, but there are some inferior goods that there is a negative income effect, but that is not as strong as the negative substitution effect. So overall, the price effect is negative for those goods. So then that good doesn't become a given good. So you don't have to explain with the exact words I have told. But if you are okay with the story, how it works, but for you to understand the story, you should have learned that part previously under somewhere. Okay. If you know that story, I think you can come up with an answer. Is the part okay? It's a bit of a tough question, not very tough, but you should be able to handle some basics. Is that okay? Okay, this can be in paragraph format. Others also fine. Okay. Too confusing. Take some time and go through again, right? Substitution effect is positive. No, substitution effect is negative. For all the good, substitution effect is negative. Let's go through the new video, right? I'm hoping you all would have gone through the old video. I don't know if you all went through some old video, right? Around 3 years ago, how you interpret this is different compared to how you interpret it now. So on my YouTube channel, I think there is like a 2-3-year-old video also on this. Please don't go and watch that. That is wrong now. That doesn't make sense. Okay. So what's the latest one that is on the playlist? I send it on the group also, guys. Please follow the messages that come on the group. Don't you have to mention substitution effect to explain different good is inferior? No, you don't have to talk about the substitution effect. Not needed. Okay. So you can combine this, look at the answer, whatever that is there in your textbook also, combine it and write. Okay. Moving to the next. What is meant by price elasticity of demand? This one is very easy. What is price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity of demand is a measure of what? Is a measure of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a percentage change in price. When price changes, by how much will the quantity demand change? Will it change a little? Will it change a lot? That is what you call the responsiveness of quantity demanded. That is what price elasticity of demand is. They're only asking what is it now and 2 marks. So you can just give the definition. You can say price elasticity of demand is is a measure of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a percentage change in price, while all other factors are constant, and all of that you can say. That is what price elasticity of demand is. Okay, moving to the next. Next question is an interesting one. This question is on a deficiency payment. Okay, so I have not taught you all deficiency payment in the past paper class properly. So listen very carefully. They are saying, consider that farmers who cultivate pumpkins in a certain country are having a hard time making a living selling pumpkins. So there are some farmers selling pumpkins, but it's very hard for them. Maybe the price they get is not enough and all of that. The current demand and supply conditions in the market are given below. QD and QS. Price is in rupees and quantity in kg. What are the market equilibrium prices and quantities? Can you all give me that case? That I'm not going to find for you. Can you give me equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity? Price 26. Okay. And equilibrium quantity, guys, again, this quantity and all, it's given in metric tons. No, I have seen some people trying to convert this metric tons into kilos. Don't do that, right? Normal way you do the QD and QS equation, you do that and give the answer also in metric tons, 90 metric tons. That is okay, right? You don't have to, so 1 ton has 1000 kilos. So 90 means 90,000 kilos. Don't need to do all of that nonsense. You can just give this. Okay, so equilibrium price and quantity. This I don't have to teach you. Then the next one. Suppose the government decides to help the farmers by implementing. Past paper, the answer was in kilos. You can give it in tons, don't worry. Okay. Suppose the government decides to help farmers by implementing a deficiency payment scheme. Under this scheme, the government will guarantee farmers that they will receive 30 per kilo of pumpkin and just ask that they sell all of the pumpkins they produce at whatever price they can get from the market. How much pumpkins will the farmers supply to the market now? We'll draw this situation and we'll see. Right now, I want all of you all to listen very carefully. I have not taught this in the past paper class, so listen carefully and get the area of deficiency payment in your head. Some of you all already know it because it's a basic unit number 3 area. But the others who don't know, listen carefully. So you have the demand and supply for what? Demand and supply for pumpkins. So according to our example, the equilibrium price was 26 and the equilibrium quantity was 90 metric tons. So in the question they are saying, what are they saying? That the government is now coming and providing a a minimum price of 30 rupees per kilo. And they are asking us, at this price, how many kilos of pumpkins will the farmer supply? So we'll find at 30 rupees a kilo. Now see, now this is minimum price set at 30 rupees a kilo. At 30 rupees a kilo, they are asking us how many kilos of pumpkin will the farmers supply. So this is our supply curve, right? So you need to find the number over here. How do you find this number, guys? You have the supply equation. What is our supply equation? Our supply equation is QS equals minus 40 plus 5P. QS equals minus 40 plus 5B. So when the price is 30, how much is the quantity supplied? So QS equals minus 40 plus 5 into 30. So QS equals how much, guys? Minus 40 plus 5 into 30 is 150. Quantity supplied is 110. So when the price is 30 rupees, when the government guarantees a minimum price of 30 rupees, the farmers are willing to supply how much, guys? Farmers are willing to supply 110 kilos of how much? 110 metric tons of pumpkin. But do you see that the demand for pumpkins is now low? Quantity demanded, right? At this 100 whatever price, okay, the quantity demanded is a very low one. We don't need that for now. But if anyone found it, how much is the number, guys? How much is the demand? 50? We don't need it for this question, but never mind. So I'll just put it in a dotted very light color because we don't need it. It's 50. So can you see there is what now? There is an excess supply in the market. Can you tell me what are the two things the government can do now? What can the government do, guys? After they put a minimum price, there is what? The minimum price leads to a excess supply. Tell me two things the government can do. One the government can do is they can purchase the excess supply. They can buy the excess supply, right? What is that called? That is called price support government purchase. What is the next thing the government can do? Now, after purchasing the excess supply, they will export it to store and keep and put out later. That we don't care. But the first thing they can do is they can purchase the excess supply. What's the second thing the government can do? Second thing the government can do is provide a deficiency payment. Now, what is this deficiency payment? Listen very carefully. Okay, get the logic into your head. Now, one thing the government can do is purchase this excess supply. There is an excess supply of 60 kilos. Government can purchase that and they can export it to store and keep and put out later. Or they can do whatever they want. But in our question, they are not doing that. So maybe something like pumpkin, maybe you can't export. Maybe you can't, store and keep also. You can't do anything. So government decided, no, we are not going to purchase the excess supply. We are going to provide a deficiency payment. Listen to the story. Government came and felt that the price of 26 rupees per kilo is unfair. So government said, look here, farmer, I will give you, and guys, don't draw on the board. Okay. Right. So government came in, right? Government came and said, 26 is not enough. I understand. Farmer, I will give you 30 rupees per kilo. Now farmer is happy. Farmer says, okay, thank you, government, right? So at 30 rupees, farmer is now going and supplying 110 kilos because he's happy. Earlier he got 26 rupees. He was only supplying 90 kilos. But now at 30 rupees, he is happy. He's going and supplying 110. Then the farmer realizes at 30 rupees, he can't sell all his 110 kilos. Why? Because the consumer is willing to buy only 50. Now the farmer becomes sad again. Now farmer goes back to the government and say, look here government, you said that you will give me 30 rupees. So I produced 110 kilos now. But people are not willing to buy my 110 kilos. What should I do now? So government says, okay, that's all right. I will give you a deficiency payment. What does that mean? Government tells the farmer, you go and find out at what price are the consumers willing to buy 110 kilos. What did the government tell the farmer? Government told the farmer, go and find out to buy 110 kilos. What is the price consumers are willing to pay? How do you find that? See, to buy 110 kilos, right? We'll see. To buy 110 kilos, look at the board, right? To buy 110 kilos, what is the price the consumer is willing to pay? Right? This is the demand curve. So what is the price the consumer is willing to pay to buy this 110? How do you find out that? How do you find out this case? So this price over here now, you need to find this. What is the price the consumer is willing to pay to buy 110 kilos? So you can take the demand equation. What is the demand equation? 350 minus 10p. So put 110 to QD and see when will the this thing be this thing is. At which price will the demand be 110? So what is our demand? 350 minus 10p. Watch very carefully. So our QD equation is QD equals 350 minus 10p. So we are trying to find when the QD is 110. That means for the consumers to buy 110 units, what price should it be? So 350 minus 10p. I'll take the 10p to this side. 10p equals 350 minus 110. Then 10p equals 240. P equals 24. So the farmer goes to the market and finds out at the price of 24, right? If you charge 24 rupees, then the consumers will buy 110 units. So are we clear with the story, guys? Government came and put a minimum price of 30. Farmer was motivated. He supplied 110 units, but he realized he can't sell his 110 units at 30 rupees. So he goes back to the government. Government tells, you go and find out and come what price is the consumer willing to pay to buy your entire supply, to buy your entire 110 units. What is the price the consumer is willing to pay? So farmer goes to the market, does the calculation, and he comes and says the government, look here government, the consumer is willing to pay 24 rupees to buy my 110 kilos. Government says, okay, I promised you 30 rupees, but consumer is willing to pay only 24. That's okay. You sell all your 110 kilos at the price of 24. The deficient amount, the balance amount, I will give you. You sell the entire thing at 24 rupees, 1 kilo at 24. The balance 6 rupees because I promised you 30 rupees. You sell the entire thing for 24. I will give you the balance 6 rupees. That is what you call a deficiency payment. So what happens? The farmer goes and sells his entire 110 kilos at 24 rupees to the consumer, and he gets the remaining 6 rupees from the government. So what is the government's total expenditure then? Government's total expenditure is they have to pay this 6 rupees, right? This 6 rupees into 110 units, right? So government's total expenditure becomes this area that I'm highlighting in green. How? Per unit government has to pay 6 rupees for a total of how many units? For a total of 110 units. So this entire thing is government's deficiency payment expenditure. Is that clear? That is the basic story. Fine. Okay. Right. So we'll go the questions and see. Question number B, we did. How many pumpkins will the farmer supply? 110. What price do farmers need to charge in order to sell the entire supply, guys? What price should the farmers charge to sell the entire supply? That is part C. They have to charge 24 rupees. That is what we calculated. So to sell that entire 110 kilos, what should the price the farmer should charge? He should charge 24 rupees. That is your answer. This is the working. Then the next one. How much will the farmers receive from the government as deficiency payment? How much will they receive, guys? As deficiency payment per unit and total. Give both. How much will they receive per unit? Because we are not sure, no, are they asking per unit or total here? So you, in your answer, you be very careful. Okay. So that is part D, right? You can say per unit they will receive 6 rupees. So therefore, in total, they will receive 6 into 110, that is 606. So even they ask per unit or total, you have given a complete answer. So now the examiner knows whatever thing, they'll give you the marks. So be very careful, because you don't know, no, how much will the farmer receive as deficiency payment. We are not sure, are they asking for total or per unit? So give both nicely, okay? And then the last one. Calculate the consumer surplus and producer surplus after the introduction of the deficiency payment. Now for this, you need to have this thing, 660, guys. You can just give 660, no problem. You don't have to make it 660,000. 6 rupees into 110. Okay. So which area is consumer surplus? Which area is producer surplus? Can you think and tell me, guys? Okay. I'm not going into detail on consumer surplus and producer surplus, but I'll help you a little to figure it out. Can you tell me what is the price the consumer is paying? How many units is he buying? What's the price the consumer is paying? How many units is he buying? Consumer is paying 24 rupees, buying 110 units. So 24 buying 110. This becomes what? This triangle here becomes the consumer surplus. Now my triangle is a little bad. Okay, so I'll try to redraw it. Consumer surplus is, okay, this. That's the best I can do. Okay, consumer surplus is this triangle. How? Because consumer is buying 110 units, paying 24. Guys, I'm not going to go to teach the logic on consumer surplus. You all would have learned in a theory class. So can you tell me, guys, to find consumer surplus, do we have enough information or something is missing? What is missing? To find consumer surplus, you need the maximum demand price. What is that? You need the price over here. How much is that, guys? Now, we have done so many calculations for maximum demand price. That is the price when QD equals 0. So take the equation, put 0 to QD, and you can find it. So how much do we get, guys? Maximum demand price is 35, right? So then how much is our consumer surplus? So consumer surplus is equal to half into what is our base, 110. What is our height? 35 minus 24. So when I solve this, how much do I get? Rupees 605. Now that is my consumer surplus. Done. Then can you tell me, guys, the producer, how many units is he selling? What is the price he is receiving? The producer, to find producer surplus now. How many units is he selling? Producer is selling 110 units and he is getting 30 rupees, right? Consumer is paying 24. Government is giving a deficiency payment of 6. So in total, he is getting 30 rupees, right? So then 30 to 110, this area becomes, this green area becomes producer surplus. Areas can overlap, no problem at all. To find producer surplus, do we have all the information? We don't. We need this minimum supply price. We need this price to find the height. How much is that? That is the price when quantity supplied equals 0. How much is that, guys? That is 8, right? That's 8. Okay. So then we can find producer surplus. How do we find producer surplus now? Producer surplus equals half into base is 110, height is how much? 30 minus 8. That is the height, 30 minus 8. So how much do we get as producer surplus then? Producer surplus is how much? 1 to 10. That's our producer surplus. Right. How many of you all got all of this correct? The equilibrium to price to all of these requirements, there is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 marks. 10 marks plus the equilibrium price and quantity, 12 marks. Got 12 out of 12? Yes. So first thing was very easy. Second thing, you need to find that. So if you've got 12 out of 12, I think you're pretty good, right? Your level of understanding is comparatively better than a normal average student. That's good. For the others who didn't get all right, I'm hoping you all would have learned how to do it. I didn't go into the very basics of deficiency payment. So please go through your theory revision notes and all and study as well. Fast track people, you all are supposed to do it today according to your study plan. And tomorrow I will recap the thing again. Okay. Right. Right. That is the 2018 A-level paper. Fine. How did you all do? How much out of 20? First one is individual demand and market demand. Second one is this Giffen good, inferior good story. Third one is what is meant by PED. And the last one is this entire 12-mark calculation. At least 15. Yeah. Okay. Right. Good. So with that, 2018 is